If you look at the countries with the largest lithium reserves, Chile comes in first. Next are Australia, Argentina, China, and the United States. If we express that in tons, Chile has 9.3 million metric tons, Australia only has 6.2, and the gap gets even bigger. Argentina has 3.6 and China 3. And in fact, not many people realize how crucial lithium really is. Humanity's already gone through the copper, bronze, and iron ages. Now we're on the verge of the lithium age. But the distribution of lithium around the world is about to change dramatically, and it's all because of this tiny patch of land between Oregon and Nevada, because right now it's the most valuable piece of land in all of America. I'll just make myself a coffee now, and we'll continue. Just an unobtrusive reminder to like the video for those who do it while or after watching. And thanks for understanding you-know-what. Usually when people discover a deposit of something in the 21st century, it happens in some hard-to-reach place, like in the middle of dense forests or on the ocean floor, places that were once impossible to get to. But with lithium, it seems they found it in the U.S. pretty easily and just recently. According to a study published in August 2023, inside an ancient supervolcano that formed over 10 million years ago, there might really be a lithium deposit, the biggest in the world. The potential discovery centers around the McDermott caldera on the border between Nevada and Oregon. The study suggests that in the clay bed that runs all over the inactive volcano, there could be 20 to 40 million metric tons of lithium. A great spot to set up a mine here. The mine project belongs to Lithium Nevada LLC, a subsidiary of Lithium Americas Corp. As soon as the study was published, Lithium Americas stock jumped by 7%. The next day, it soared another 4%. Lithium Americas expects to begin lithium extraction at the deposit site in 2026. If the mine proves successful and the deposit's as big as the company thinks, it could have massive consequences for the entire world, and especially for the U.S. The country would achieve independence in the ongoing race for lithium. If everything goes according to the company's plan, the mine will produce 66,000 tons of lithium per year at full capacity. That's about 25% of the global lithium demand in 2021. The mine construction kicked off in March 2023. Thacker Pass will sit in the southern part of the McDermott caldera, roughly 62 miles northwest of the small town of Winnemucca in Humboldt County, northern Nevada. By the way, in March 2024, the U.S. government offered Lithium Americas financial assistance to develop a lithium deposit. As I mentioned before, the whole country is interested in this. The president's administration agreed to provide a conditional loan of $2.26 billion for building a lithium carbonate processing plant. This became the largest federal investment in a lithium mine at that time. Of course, there were some issues with permits and legal battles from the tribes in Nevada and environmental groups. All of this slowed down the project a bit, but it's expected that lithium production at the Thacker Pass mine will reach full capacity by 2028. So it's coming up pretty soon. Okay, the mine situation is more or less clear for now, but why has lithium suddenly become so important? How did we end up on the brink of the lithium age? Well, it's all because of technology. Take the steam engine, for example, a machine that kicked off the first industrial revolution in the 1700s. This invention quickly became a part of everyday life, impacting industries like transportation, textiles, infrastructure, and agriculture. It also sparked improvements in other areas of society like sanitation, labor laws, and housing. Not so long ago, we went through two more revolutions like this. There was the energy revolution in the 1800s and the telecommunications revolution in the 1900s. Right now, humanity is in the middle of the fourth, digital revolution, which began in the 2000s. And behind all these revolutions were the great achievements of the metal age. But times change, and now copper, tin, bronze, and iron are no longer as valuable. Lithium steps into the spotlight. It's often referred to as the white gold of the clean energy transition. It plays a major role in battery technology, and with the growing number of electric cars and the demand for renewable energy storage, lithium is quickly becoming one of the most precious metals. The demand for lithium has skyrocketed because of the growing demand for electric cars and the increased use of renewable energy. In 2021, the world consumed about 500,000 tons of lithium, and it's expected that by 2030, this number will exceed 3 million tons. This rapid growth is mainly driven by the rising demand for lithium-ion batteries, which are at the heart of the electrification trend. Almost 60% of lithium is mined for battery production today. According to forecasts, if things continue as they are, this figure will rise to 95% by 2030. The electrified future is a lot closer than you might think. In 2022, General Motors, which, by the way, is the largest American car company, announced that it plans to stop selling gasoline-powered cars by 2035. Audi's goal is to end their production by 2033, and many other big automakers are following suit. In fact, according to Bloomberg NEF, by 2040, 2/3 of the cars sold worldwide will be electric. According to forecasts from the International Energy Agency, by 2040, the world will need at least 1.1 million metric tons of lithium per year, which is 10 times more than what's produced now. No wonder the U.S. Department of Defense added lithium to the list of critical minerals, given how heavily the U.S. depends on foreign supplies. All lithium reserves are well spread across the world, but deposits with high content are concentrated in the countries I mentioned at the beginning: Australia, Chile, China, and Argentina. The first three countries accounted for 88% of the global total lithium production in 2023. But here's the thing. Though most of the lithium in the world is produced in Australia and South America, around 2/3 of it is processed in China, which also dominates in manufacturing batteries for electric vehicles. The U.S. imports about 25% of its lithium, almost all of it from Chile and Argentina. But an analysis of federal data carried out by the Atlantic Council showed that in 2023, the U.S. relied on China for around 70% of its lithium-ion batteries. Naturally, this dependence worries the U.S. government, but the country's deposit isn't enough. Yes, it does exist, and it's been operating since the 1960s. The deposit is located near a small town called Silver Peak in Nevada. Since the 1960s, the town is focused on extracting lithium, which is concentrated under Clayton Valley in the area of an extinct volcano, and the mining continues to this day. This picture was taken on December 8, 2022. The mine pumps brine to the surface and directs it into a series of shallow evaporation ponds. The color of the ponds is determined by the varying concentration of lithium in the water. Lighter blue ponds have higher lithium concentrations. The dry, sunny, and windy weather in the valley often evaporates the water, leaving behind a more concentrated lithium brine. This process can take 18 months or more. The brine is then pumped to a nearby facility where it's processed, dried into powder, and packaged. So it's clear that this method of lithium mining requires specific conditions, and you can't just set it up anywhere, even if there's a deposit there. Although the mine plans to double its production by 2025, it's not enough to meet the country's growing demand. Silver Peak produces only 5,000 tons a year, less than 2% of the world's annual supply. What about other lithium deposits found in the U.S.? In fact, the richest known lithium deposit in the world is buried deep in the forests of western Maine. It was discovered just a few years ago while hunting for tourmaline. Unfortunately, like in most parts of the U.S. where new mines were proposed, the initiative faced strong opposition. Maine has some of the strictest mining and water quality standards in the country, and mining metals in quarries larger than 3 acres is completely banned. That's why there haven't been any active metal mines in the state for decades, and no companies applied for a permit since the particularly tough law was passed in 2017. So trying to mine lithium here is just pointless. There's another deposit in North Carolina. Kings Mountain can mine enough material to produce 1.2 million electric cars per year. The mine is located in one of the richest spodumene ores in the world. This is exactly where the lithium comes from. But it seems there's a serious issue. Some people claim, and they're insisting pretty strongly, that in order to get more lithium out of North Carolina, the locals will have to be relocated. No official statements, just rumors. Whatever the case, the original plans of Albemarle, the leading lithium producer, to restart the Kings Mountain mine by the end of 2026 have been postponed. So now all hopes are pinned on the new deposit. It's unique in its own way. The mining process there will be different from anything people have done before. Let me explain. Look, on our planet, there are certain environments where lithium is highly concentrated and easy to extract, particularly in salty groundwater aquifers. The ideal climate for lithium mining is typically dry, with occasional seasonal rains or melting. This allows water to collect in shallow, salty lakes, which then evaporate in the summer. This cycle, as I mentioned before, helps concentrate the lithium, Thermal hot springs, volcanic activity, and sinking landscapes often indicate large lithium deposits. These conditions are common in the Atacama Desert in South America, where some of the world's biggest lithium deposits and mining operations are located, but you can also find them in Clayton Valley in Nevada. That's where Silver Peak is. At the same time, Lithium Americas hopes to extract lithium from clay in a paleo caldera, something that's never been done on a commercial scale before. It's a completely new technology. Usually, when lithium extraction doesn't involve brine, they go with the classic approach, extracting solid rock. However, at the new mine, hydraulic excavators will dig up clay and turn it into a slurry. Sand and rock that don't contain lithium will be separated and immediately returned to the quarry. On top of that, they'll use a method known as block mining. Sections of the quarry are dug out and then immediately refilled. This is called simultaneous reclamation. So it's about time to ask, where did lithium even come from in this place? The McDermott caldera, as they think, formed around 19 million years ago. The last eruption here happened about 15 to 17 million years ago and was linked to the Yellowstone plume volcanism. It's believed that the volcanic eruption pushed minerals from beneath the ground to the surface, which is basically what an eruption is supposed to do. After that, the caldera was filled with alkaline magma rich in sodium, potassium, chlorine, boron, and lithium. The products of the eruption cooled down and formed finely crystalline glassy volcanic rock. This rock weathered and formed particles rich in lithium. Then the caldera was filled with water, forming a lake. And over time, the volcanic products and surrounding material formed clay deposits on the lake's bottom. When the lake evaporated, another volcanic event exposed various elements to hot alkaline brine, and that's how we got lithium. A lot of lithium. The U.S. is now on the verge of a lithium boom. For years, the country's been preparing for this, building a supply chain for electric cars that doesn't depend on China. In October 2024 alone, the President's administration approved the Rhyolite Ridge lithium boron mine in Nevada and allocated $2.6 billion to the company developing Thacker Pass, another lithium mine in the state. Earlier this year, construction of a mine began at California's Salton Sea. These three areas, set to be launched between 2026 and 2028, will greatly boost the amount of lithium extracted in the country. According to estimates by Ioneer and other developers of lithium projects, the U.S. could have produced more than enough lithium for 1.4 million electric vehicles sold in the country last year. That would have been 7% of the car market. The President's administration has announced even more ambitious plans. By 2030, electric vehicles should make up at least 50% of all car sales. States like California and Texas are already ramping up battery production to help balance stressed power grids. In September 2024, the White House stated that lithium production in the U.S. is on track to meet 1/5 of global demand outside of China, at least for the last 10 years. There's also hope, and not without reason, that lithium can be mined from brine in Arkansas, Nevada, North Dakota, and at least one more place in the United States. But besides the people who are clearly happy about the future lithium extraction in the McDermott caldera, there are also those who are against it. The Thacker Pass in the barren mountains of northern Nevada has long been a sacred place for the Native American tribes of the region. It was a witness to history, much of it bloody and terrible, which is why it can be seen as a kind of monument. Opponents of the mine believe that starting lithium extraction threatens to cause irreversible ecological and historical damage to the area. They point out that when the mine's construction was approved, the opinions of all the residents of the reservation were not taken into account. And that matters because about 85% of all lithium reserves are located on or near indigenous lands. Some local tribes do support the project, but part of them are strongly against it. These opposing tribes insist that the Thacker Pass is a sacred site and that the officials didn't consult with them. Meanwhile, no study has found any evidence that truly horrifying bloody events, like the tribes say, actually took place in this spot. And yet, the locals keep insisting. They say, and I quote, "It's like putting a lithium mine on Arlington Cemetery." However, it's not just the indigenous population that's opposing it. The process of extracting lithium has a serious impact on the environment, particularly because producing 1 ton of lithium carbonate creates 3 times more emissions than producing 1 ton of steel. Plus, lithium production requires an enormous amount of water. The Thacker Pass lithium project is expected to use 1.7 billion gallons of water annually to produce 60,000 metric tons of lithium carbonate per year. The project has also sparked protests from ranchers, as it's expected to not only use up huge amounts of valuable groundwater, but also potentially contaminate part of it for the next 300 years, not to mention the massive pile of waste that'll be generated in the process. Eco-activists point out that electric cars and renewable energy sources might not be as green as they seem. The production of materials like lithium, cobalt, and nickel, which are essential for these technologies, often harms the land, water, wildlife, and even people. Because if the mine really becomes the cause of groundwater pollution with metals including antimony and arsenic, literally everyone will suffer. Also, the mine will consume about 11,000 gallons of diesel fuel every day, creating noise pollution and releasing smog into the air. However, the environmental damage has often been overlooked, partly because there's a race between the United States, China, the European Union, and other major powers, just like in the past. And even though gold and oil have been replaced by lithium, the essence remains the same. And it's worth mentioning that the whole project isn't just one mine being built somewhere out in the middle of nowhere. It's going to change everything, because extraction is the easiest part of the processes. The real challenge is turning lithium clay into lithium carbonate. Basically, this requires building an entire chemical plant, and it's still unclear what exactly it'll look like because no one has ever extracted lithium from clay deposits. But, for example, they'll definitely need a sulfuric acid plant because it plays an important role in breaking down the molecular structure of lithium clay. Building such a factory certainly comes with a ton of benefits. Instead of importing sulfuric acid and putting everything around it at risk, all you'd need to bring in is sulfur. Sulfur's harmless. And since it takes 1 truckload of sulfur to make 3 truckloads of sulfuric acid, transportation costs will go down too. Also, during the production of sulfuric acid, heat's released, and capturing this heat will allow generating about 40% of the electricity needed for the plant. And yes, they'll also build a power station. It'll be connected to the sulfuric acid production facility. Lithium Americas is also building a railroad station on the western edge of Winnemucca, and it will be needed not so much for shipping the finished lithium carbonate, but for all the materials that'll be delivered to the site for lithium ore processing. In short, a whole complex of different buildings is planned there. Lithium Americas insists that their project is beneficial both socially and environmentally. It'll also create 360 long-term jobs in rural Nevada, with an average salary of $63,000 a year. During the construction period, they promise another 1,800 jobs, which is of course a huge plus. Maybe the biggest obstacle to building the Thacker Pass lithium mine is the need to transport workers to the site every day and house them overnight. But that's a problem that's not so hard to solve. Lithium Americas already bought land in the eastern part of Winnemucca for a modular housing complex with 1,997 separate rooms. The building was used as temporary housing in Ottawa, then it was dismantled into 755 interlocking modules and transported to northern Nevada on several hundred semi-trucks. And Lithium Americas will also sign a contract with a bus company to transport workers to the site. So it's no surprise that the town of Winnemucca is getting ready for major changes. Over 8,600 people live here, and the interstate highway runs nearby. Travel Nevada magazine called Winnemucca the friendliest town in Nevada, though I'm not sure why. But big changes are coming soon. Nearly 2,000 construction jobs are being created for a new project. That's about 25% of the city's current population. Naturally, to get the construction done, the population of Winnemucca alone won't be enough, and the locals are already worried about the influx of newcomers. Lithium Americas is doing everything it can to make sure the people of Winnemucca benefit from their project. For example, the company plans to move the school that's currently too close to the mining site and promises to build a new one. And not just any school, one that'll be cool enough to compete with any other in the Humboldt County area. Lithium Americas has already signed a deal with the nearby Fort McDermott Paiute and Shoshone tribe to hire and train tribal members to work at the mining site. The company also agreed to build a community center and a daycare to help tribe members balance work and family. This became part of their good neighbor policy, though, as I've said, not all Native Americans are on board with the mine's development. And to be fair, they have valid reasons for that. Lithium Valley. So you already realize that global demand for lithium is growing fast, and countries are actively searching for new sources to mine it. One possible storage for this sought-after metal could be the super salty and really smelly Salton Sea in Southern California. This body of water used to be called an environmental disaster because its sediments turned into toxic dust due to heavy pollution. But now it seems like the lake is showing a different side. According to the U.S. Department of Energy's analysis, the Salton Sea area may hold up to 3,400 kilotons of lithium, enough to power more than 375 million electric vehicle batteries. Most of the metal likely ended up in the lake's waters due to past geological activity and also from water and sediment carried by the Colorado River. In general, there seems to be enough lithium there to set up a productive mine. But there's one problem. The plan is for lithium extraction at Salton Sea to rely on the infrastructure of existing geothermal power plants. Hot brine will be pumped from geothermal active layers lying 1.5 miles beneath the Earth's surface. Steam from this brine will power turbines to generate electricity, and after that, the brine will be returned to underground aquifers. While all this sounds impressive and environmentally friendly, no one has yet managed to process lithium brine this way successfully. But it seems like lithium is so crucial for the U.S. that despite all the challenges in getting the project approved, it's moving ahead at a fast pace. End of reliance. In a new study conducted by the U.S. Geological Survey, between 5 and 19 million tons of lithium were found in rock formations in the southern part of the mainland U.S. What does this mean? Well, first of all, it means they're actively looking for lithium. Secondly, thanks to such deposits, the U.S. could significantly reduce its reliance on lithium imports. Scientists used AI to create a map of an area they believe has enough lithium. Then they took samples from the Arkansas part of the Smackover Formation, which stretches from the Gulf Coast in Florida through parts of Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, and into Texas. And then scientists found out that there's a lot of dissolved lithium in that region. Since the research results were just published in September 2024, the development of the deposit hasn't been started yet, but if the researchers' claims about the amount of lithium turn out to be true, this will push the U.S. into the rankings of the world's largest lithium holders. In fact, the U.S. would only be surpassed by Bolivia with its 23 million tons and Argentina with 22 million tons. So it looks like the U.S. will soon be independent from imports. We just need to wait a bit more. Apes under threat. This might sound unexpected, but the mining industry has a huge impact on primates, especially in Africa. A new study shows that a third of gorillas, chimpanzees, and bonobos, about 180,000 animals in total, are at risk. Researchers looked into mining areas in 17 African countries and found that human activity is harming the apes through pollution, habitat loss, increased hunting pressure, and diseases. The problem's especially pressing in West African countries like Liberia, Sierra Leone, Mali, and Guinea. These countries saw the biggest overlap between mining industries and monkey populations. For example, in Guinea, over 23,000 chimpanzees, which is about 83% of the country's monkey population, may be directly or indirectly affected by mining activities. The saddest part is that it's unclear how to solve this problem. On one hand, industry is developing and people are trying to provide for themselves with resources, which makes sense. On the other hand, wild animals are losing their habitats and there's basically nowhere to relocate them. How can we make sure everyone wins? I honestly don't know. If you have any ideas, feel free to leave them in the comments. Did you remember to hit the like button? See you later.